Okay, we were talking about you. I mean, you not only helped Liza with the show, which she did, Kay Thompson and the Williams Brothers, and won a Tony, but you also, when Funny Face was reissued.
Well, I did. Yes,
you worked on something that was added to the DVD.
Yes, there's a 2-disc DVD of Funny Face that came out about a year ago, and on that is an extra, a 30-minute documentary of Kay Thompson. And I served as a historical consultant on that, and sort of a talking head, and interviewed in the piece as well. Yes.
That's just fascinating. You made a career out of studying this woman, aside from your other production and directorial.
Cottage industry of Kay Thompson, absolutely. I've cornered the market on it.
And you're kind of friendly with some of Andy's brothers, I think. Yeah.
Yes, they're of the 4 Williams brothers, 3 are still with us. Andy, of course, and Dick and Don, and I've interviewed all 3 of them quite extensively over the years.
But you haven't talked to Andy.
Oh, I have talked to Andy.
Oh, you have?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It was very interesting because early on in researching this book, I discovered that there were column items and whatnot suggesting, or more than suggesting, that there was a romance going on between Kay Thompson and Andy Williams when they were on the road way back when.
And Andy was much younger than Kay.
Andy was 19 and she was pushing 40.
Oh, my.
So we're talking Cougar Town on the nightclub circuit, if this were true. And everyone that I asked about it, friends and colleagues would say, well, we thought something was going on, but, you know, nobody would ever talk about it or say anything about it. And I asked his brothers, and they said, hey, we don't even know. We wondered, too, but we don't know. I finally interviewed Andy in 2002. I went to see him in Branson at his Moon River Theater, and his brother Don took me backstage after and introduced me, and we ended up talking about Kay for a couple of hours. It was really wonderful experience. And after taking the scenic route, I got around to asking the big question, and Andy said no, he wasn't romantically involved. But then he took a pause, and he had, with a little twinkle in his eye, he said, but I'm not telling you everything because I'm saving some stories for my memoir.
Right, so, which is now out. So our viewers can read Andy Williams' Moon River. And
Andy's book is called Moon River and Me.
Right, and you have Kay Thompson.
That's right.
From Funny Face to Eloise.
So I knew, from what he was saying, I knew I was on to something. And I just had to wait it out. And basically I did. I knew I had plenty of years' worth of research to do. And about a little over a year and a half ago, when I was, my deadline was kind of approaching, but I was able to get an advance galley of his book, and he owned up to it and talked all about it. And so that opened up the door for me to talk to him again, and we talked, and he opened up about it.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think is so amazing? Now, this is the first book that you've written. And to have Simon & Schuster, particularly in this era, where it's really hard for anyone to get a top publisher.
I'm still pinching myself. I can't believe it's happened, because everybody I talk to is that it's really, really tough out there in the publishing world. And oddly enough, I mean, I think the reason that Simon & Schuster was particularly interested is because they publish the Eloise books, which are still, after 55 years of being on the market, the first book has never been out of print. So it's a major franchise for them. So yes, they were interested. But I was shocked that there was another major publisher that also wanted it, and it got into a little bit of a bidding war.
Which is great.
Which is also
financially?
Financially okay, didn't hurt, but it's also kind of unheard of in this climate. So I feel very charmed.
Well, you recently had a book signing at Fabulous Books.
At Just Fabulous,
Just Fabulous, right. And of course, we talked about the relationship between Liza Minnelli and Kay Thompson.
Yes.
And the fact that Liza was the goddaughter, but Lorna Luft, who's Liza's half-sister, and Judy's daughter, was there for you. So she obviously was very close also to Kay Thompson.
Incredibly sweet of Lorna to come out and support me at this signing. I had interviewed Lorna several years ago through Michael Feinstein actually introduced me to her, and she was incredibly helpful, and just recently was able to read the book, and she really loved it, and got in touch with me, and I said, well, I'm doing this signing at Just Fabulous, and you live in the area, why don't you come out for it? And she said, I'd love to. And not only did she just drop by, but she ended up talking to the audience for 30 minutes about Kay and all of her experiences, and they were rapt and agog with this. It was so sweet of her to do. It was just really, really nice.
Okay, now, you were very busy as a director and producer, and you worked with a lot of major stars. Did this slow you down, working on the book?
It didn't slow me down, but I have to say there were times when I couldn't wait to get back to it. You know, we'd be, you know, when you get on film projects, as much as I adore them, they tend to drag on, and particularly post-production and everything, and I would be like, oh, I can't wait to have my free time again to get back into it, because it was definitely something that I didn't expect it to take over my life the way it did, and it did.
Yeah.
It did.
Well, in reading it, I can see that. Okay, let's talk about some of the stars you worked with.
Well, I started out in the business as Brian De Palma's assistant. I worked on Dress to Kill with Michael Caine and Angie Dickinson and that sort of thing. But I always wanted to be a director. And I did a short film called Double Negative in the mid-'80s that got accepted at Sundance and played theatrically in New York and L.A. And that was sort of my calling card to start directing feature films. My first feature was called Guilty as Charged, and it starred Rod Steiger. Can you imagine directing your first film with Rod Steiger? I mean, he's like a lion, and I'm supposed to be the lion tamer.
Is it difficult for you to face someone who you've admired, but and suddenly he's the star, but you have to tell him suggestions?
It was very daunting the first day, and I didn't know what to expect. But he turned out to be a pussycat, and he was so funny with me because he would just come up to me and say things like, do you see any reflection in my glasses? And of course he's not wearing glasses. He kept trying to make these crazy jokes to throw me, and I'd be like, you know, what are you asking me? And another time he said, he kept saying, and is the camera, you know, where's the camera? How close is the camera? Is it here or here? You know, I said, well, you know, in this one, we're going to probably be about here. And he said, oh, good. I don't need to wear my pants. And he'd take his pants off and be standing in his boxer shorts.
Did he know this was your first?
He knew this was my first film, and he was having a lot of fun with that.
I often wonder, because the director is so important. So how does a person get their first job, and particularly an important job with a major star?
Well, it was still a low-budget movie, first of all. It was it was going to be released theatrically briefly, but it was mainly direct-to-video. But we had a great cast. We had Rod Steiger, Heather Graham in one of her earliest roles, right after she did Drugstore Cowboy, Lauren Hutton, Isaac Hayes, Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist. We had a lot of fun people on that film, but it was being made by an independent production company. They had seen my short film, which was kind of a dark comedy, a little bit in the same vein.
And what was that?
It was called Double Negative. And so they
figured you could do it.
They figured I could do it, I guess. Yeah. And so, and then after that, I did other films. There was a Showtime movie called Out There, which was a sort of UFO comedy, and Rod Steiger came back and did a small role for me as a favor.
How nice. And
then I worked with this guy. I met him. We were shooting on the lot in Studio City at the CBS Radford lot, and they do a lot of television shows there and whatnot. And there was Hearts of Fire was going on at that time, which was the John Ritter series. And there was a supporting actor on that show that I met at the commissary, and the producer of my film knew him and said, oh, Sam, you give him a little role in the thing. He said, yeah, I'd love to do something. So he came in and did one-day role, and I was talking to him and stuff, and he said, You know, right after this, we have a hiatus, and I'm going to be directing my first film and starring in it. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, it's called Sling Blade. This was Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh my! Oh my!
I got him just before.
That's terrific. Well, I think your timing is really good, and the fact that you came out with this book, Kay Thompson, From Funny Face to Eloise, right before Christmas.
Oh yeah. That was very smart of Simon & Schuster, wasn't
right,
it?
Absolutely. And of course, the Eloise books, I'm sure, as you say, they're still selling.
Yes.
And children love them. My daughter just loved it. My mother grew up in New York City in a hotel, much as Eloise. And my daughter told me, I didn't know that when she was very young, she really thought that my mother had been Eloise.
Well,
I couldn't believe it.
Stand in line. There's so many other people that felt the same way, yeah.
It's amazing.
And I think people identify with that character. Even I identified as a young boy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all want to live that glamorous life and live in a hotel and order room service and pour water down the mail chute.
Fabulous. Fantastic. And it's wonderful that this book has been written and that more people will be aware, because everybody in show business knew Kay Thompson and admired Kay Thompson.
Well, the people,
but the people today, the younger people, don't have a clue.
And they're going to be amazed to find out so many of the things that she did and touched upon. I mean, she directed John F. Kennedy's inaugural gala. She changed the way that fashion shows are done. I mean, she had her fingers in everything.
I want to thank you. And I just have to read the book to find out more about what Kay Thompson did. And I want to wish all of you a very wonderful Christmas and remind you that you can see us anytime, any day or night on your Time Warner on-demand station. And you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and where I'm Small Scribe, by the way, and at my website, www.gloriagreer.com or via www.facebook.com/GloriaGreerPS. So I look forward to seeing you there, and we'll see you here next time.